All for TV. Okay, now let's get to the rear end here. I like to start with just spinning it. I'm listening for the brakes grinding, how the chain's spinning, how the carrier with the bearings in there, make sure they're not making any noises. Then just like the front end, I'm gonna give it a little shake. Up and down, side to side. It feels like this hub's loose. I feel like it's gotta be tightened one more. So I'll show you how to take off the tire. Our chain is loose. So we're gonna tighten the chain. Seems like our exhaust is loose. I'm telling you. Make sure your shock is tight. You also want to make sure you're not seeing any movement up here in the front of the swing arm. I'll bring you in a little bit closer. Right here and then right on the other side. Now the bearings in there may be going bad, or the bushings. I'm not really sure what's in there because I've never done it. It's probably bushings. But if you just look up here, when you're looking on this side, but right on the other side of the frame is a nut. Make sure that is tight. It's a 19 millimeter. Another bolt that I put Loctite on. Blue Loctite. So the rear carrier is not serviceable. It does not have a grease fitting. Up here in the front, a Zerk fitting right here. So we'll do just like we did in the front. We'll poke that with the pick, and then we'll fill that with grease. Now to remove the back tire, it's a little bit different than the front tire. It's more of a, the hub itself is threaded. So they run a bolt through it, threads into the hub, and then there is a nylock nut on this side also. So you're gonna have to take a 15 millimeter. You do not have to use air tools, but I like my air tools. Ah, son of a bitch. Okay, nothing like a quad banging you in the top of the head here. 13 millimeter, just like the front. Pop them off. Like I said, it's a bolt. Fuck me, man. Why is this not going well? You've been sitting on this fucking stand all this time. Okay. So here's the hub cover. Little dust cover. Pop that off. You can see it's filled with dirt. We're going to take off this cotter pin. So 30 millimeter. I mean, even with a lock washer, it's still backed off a little bit. This is what was going on with the whole front end. You see where that hole is? Now you see where it's tight? Now it's tight. That hole should be about another 1/8 of an inch in there. So the blue Loctite will hold that, and I'm going to put another pin through. So I'm just going to use a bigger cotter pin, just a little fatter at the top so it's stronger. Put our dust cover back on. Now we'll reattach the tire. We'll put a little bit of Loctite, blah blah, a little bit of Loctite. Telling you, Get Loctite happy. It's a 17 mil. Yes, that's tight. So the exhaust seems to be pretty loose. This bolt right here is actually tight. So I think what I'm going to do is tighten it up at the head. Just going to make sure that these are tight. Oh, look how loose they are. Unbelievable, man. So that's why the exhaust is loose. It really is incredible how loose this stuff becomes. Now the exhaust is nice and tight. Now we're going to work on the caliper and change the brake pads. You're going to need a 10mm socket, an M6 Allen key, some anti-seize, and your pads. I like to break this loose first. This is what holds the pads on. So I get that broken loose because it's just easier. 10mm, you have 2 bolts holding this on. Let's try and loosen it instead of tighten it. Basically right in front of the caliper. So bolts are off, caliper's off. This is the Allen I loosened. Then you're just gonna, there's a spring in between them, so that comes off. And then as you can see, they just slide. Pad comes off, you can see how worn it is. Spring in between the pads. Pad comes off. We do have to push in the piston, but first I'm gonna clean it up. Try and clean all that dirt off before you just push it in. Okay, I just realized the battery went dead. So I did put some anti-seize around the piston before I crank it in. I'm going to take a pad, basically put it on backwards, opposite way. Take our C-clamp. Let's go the other way. And run the piston in. Everything should just go. Alright, now hold it like this. We'll get our new pads here. So on the little shaft, I like to put a little anti-seize. You know, we want everything to slide. Take a pad, make sure that the shoe part is going to be facing each other. Oh, almost forgot. The spring. Spring in between. Okay. Now this is where I need to put it down for a second. This is our other little shaft that slides on. Get anti-seize on this. This is usually how you end up with anti-seize all over your face. And we'll take our caliper. Remember, there's going to be a spring in between. And we'll take our little shaft here, fish it in between. Don't really have to tighten this just yet. I just get it snug so I don't have to turn it as much. essentially right there, it's all put together. Now this out, it should move just fine. Now we'll put it back in place. Split your pads over the rotor. Usually I put a little anti-seize on the bolt, but these are still good. Still has plenty of anti-seize on them. I wish I could show you a little bit better views, but the bike's just so small and I just really have no room. Two 10mm bolts. So snug, and about a quarter turn. We're tight. Don't forget, tighten that little shaft. So snug at a quarter turn. Give her a spin. Now pump the brake up. The piston's gonna start pushing out. Give it a spin, give it a squeeze. Squeeze. Back brakes are done. But now to service the chain. This chain's very loose. I'm gonna take off this chain guard so this way you can see a little bit better. All it is 2 bolts on the chain guard, 10mm. So now you can see the chain a little bit better. You can see how loose we are. You're gonna have to loosen the 2 chain tensioners. Now these are double nutted. So you take the outside one out, loosen it, and then you take the inside. It's usually about where I start. 13mm. Now these are supposed to be nylocks, but you can see I'm spinning them by hand. Then I put the socket on to get the inside one. Same thing on the other side. Put that inside socket, inside nut. Work it loose. So now the 2 chain tensioners are loose. Now, you have to get these top bolts loose. 13mm. You don't have to take any of this off, you just have to loosen it. Okay. Makes it a little bit easier if you take off the skid plate too. That's 4 10mm bolts underneath. 2 here and 2 towards the front of the swing arm. Just gives you a little bit more room to work. Now we have to loosen right down in here these 2 Allen head M8s. Like I said, nothing has to come off, it just has to loosen. I hate that they put these as Allen heads, but yeah, it is what it is. Now once that is loose, you'll notice it can move now. Now this is just the pry bar. So by moving it towards the camera, I'm tightening it. Now by me putting this underneath and pushing the carrier forward towards the engine of the bike, it became loose. You know, with this chain, there's not a lot of time on it. So what I am going to do is I'm going to find the master link, pop that off, and I'm going to take a link off of this. Pretty simple to do with a grinder or a chain breaker, but I'm going to do it with a grinder. Locate your master link. Give it a little tap with a hammer. Clip pops right off. Pull off the link. Slide out the master link. That's it. Now over here on the workbench, I'm going to show you how to cut off a link off a chain. So if you look right here, so you have like an inner link and then an outer link. So inner, cooperate here, outer. So we need an inner, we need 2 inner links to connect the master link. So essentially, if I want to take off one link, I'm really taking off one outer link. And all I'm going to do, grind these rivets out, and then it'll pop off. And then we'll have a whole link taken out, and that should be enough for this chain to still get more life out of it. So I just put it in the vise. Don't put it tight. Just enough where it's going to hold in place. Like I said, you can also use a chain breaker for this. But I don't know, for some reason I like to use the grinder. I feel it just goes. Put on your safety squints. Take your grinder. Take a little punch. And that's it. 2 small links. Not too difficult. Where did it go? Where the fuck did the link go? And here's the cutoff link. So basically, see, you just trim down the outer one. Just grind it off, and then you can kind of punch it, and it usually pops right out. That's it. So we just removed essentially a link and a half, but 1 link. Over that tensioner. So you can see, what are we going to do? Well, when we move the chain forward, so I did have to put it in gear just to help hold it for me. So there you go. Now we got a nice tight connection here. Slide the master link in. Basically the link washer, and then the clip. And just make sure everything's tight. Put little pliers on it, pinch it. Give her a spin in neutral. And there we go. Now the chain is snug. We still have movement. And it's got a little more room to stretch. And now you just snug everything back up. Now I like to kind of start at the top. Get these top ones, these top bolts, pinch bolts done. So help keep it from moving. I'm just going to put these snug. Hand snug up against. Get down in here and tighten the Allen key, the Allen wrench, key, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, this is the worst. So now they're tight. Now we're going to take a 13mm wrench, and I don't want to tighten the outside ones just yet because I want to pinch it. So it's going to work like a jam nut. So you want to tighten the inside one first. Get it tight, and then about another quarter turn. Now we'll take our jam nuts, run them in. So you put the wrench on the inside, ratchet or another wrench on the outside. Maybe here. There we go. And jam them together. And all that's nice and tight. Looks beautiful. Whew. Got a little bit of dust in my face here. Now we're going to spray some chain lube on that. I love the Bel-Ray chain lube. Feel like it sticks real well, lubricates real well. This can is almost empty. So lubing the chain is a major maintenance step you need to do. This can be even done, you know, throughout the day while you're out in the woods. It does not, you almost can't over lube a chain. Just use good chain lube. Now we'll throw back on our chain guard. Tight. Now we'll slide underneath and do the skid plate. Okay. Now the chain is all done. You know, these are all things you want to check back here. Chain maintenance, very important. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope your bike's serviced. If you haven't done so already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.